Welcome to Hannah's Heart.
So Hannah, she's just one of the women who did struggle with infertility in the Bible.
No matter who we are, we can be inspired by the fact that Hannah took her pain to God, and God heard her and was with her.
So when she was praying at the temple, she had been weeping and not eating, and her lips were moving, but her eyes were closed, and the priest was like, "Hey, why are you drunk at the temple?"
It can become an obsession when you want a child so deeply.
And desiring that baby and to be a mama. Every holiday, every Mother's Day.
This is not a show that's going to promise you a certain outcome, but this is a show that says, however God answers your cry, we know that He's enough.
Hey, I'm Ann, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today on Hannah's Heart. If you are new here, we are a radio show and podcast that focuses on women and families struggling with infertility and miscarriage, but we've come to grow a lot bigger in subject matter. Just with y'all's help and encouragement, we've covered child loss, we've covered foster care and adoption and singleness and disabilities when you have a child born with a disability, just so many different things. You guys keep us flooded with information and ideas for new shows, and so we appreciate you doing that. If you're new here, we're glad to have you, and if you're returning, we thank you for being here once again. Today's show is a topic we actually have not covered before, but it's one that I really think needs to be talked about. I feel like there's like a stigma with talking about mental health. And that's really sad because I don't know the statistics. I should have looked that up, I guess, before we started today's show. But the statistics are very high with people and especially with women struggling with mental health, especially we're going to talk about postpartum mental health. And in today's world, it's hard to ask for help when you're struggling with that. And I know it can be very isolating and very lonely. A lot of times on this show, we're talking about infertility. And so you're like, I haven't reached postpartum yet. I haven't reached pregnancy yet. And so I understand if you're like, okay, I don't care to listen to this show because I'm not there yet, but I would strongly encourage you to stay and listen because our prayer is that you will reach pregnancy one day and reach that postpartum care that you will need. And so I have a longtime friend. We haven't seen each other in years, but she is on today because she is bravely going to speak out about this for the first time. And so, Mary Todd, I'm appreciated you coming on the program today.
And I am so excited to be here and definitely nervous, but gosh, I just believe with all my heart that we need to be talking about this topic more and just breaking that stigma, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So just start us off by just letting us know what your family looks like, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of your story after that.
Yeah, so my name is Mary Todd Gordon. I am originally from Starkville, Mississippi, and now live in Florence, Alabama with my husband and 4 children. And our children are 7, 5, and we will have 2 3-year-olds next week.
Oh, my word.
So we do have twins. Yes, and so I'm a mom of multiples as well as 2 singletons, and it's just such a blessing. And have not walked through infertility and child loss, and so it's such an honor to be on a podcast who's, that's the heartbeat behind it.
Well, that is, when I reached out to you, and we'll get into why I reached out to you later, but I reached out to you and you're like, I've never struggled with infertility or miscarriage, so does that disqualify me from being on this show? And I was like, no. We have had pregnancy centers come on and talk about that, and that honestly felt odd at first because it's like, the women that this ministry was created for struggle with infertility, so why in the world would we have a pregnancy center on? But that is the heartbeat behind us, and we encourage women and families that are in the waiting to still don't waste the wait. Waiting is a verb, and so do for others, as you're in the waiting, and so That definitely doesn't disqualify someone from being on the program if you have not personally struggled with infertility or miscarriage. But you posted on Facebook a few weeks ago about pregnancy and postpartum psychosis. And it caught my attention because I was like, okay, I've heard of this, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. I know we all know their term postpartum depression, and we've covered that a few times on the program, but we have not covered and gone in depth about postpartum psychosis. And so you posted about that. Do you mind, just going in and telling us why that was even on your heart to post that?
Yes. And so almost 3 years ago, I experienced postpartum psychosis, and I did not know that that even existed. For some history, I do have a bipolar 1 diagnosis. I got that in 2013 prior to having any children. And so it turns out that I was actually more at risk for that than most women having that
Mm,
bipolar 1. And my OBGYN never mentioned anything. She's a wonderful doctor, but I think in medical school, when OB is your specialty, that's just not something that is covered in depth.
wow, yeah.
And the importance of it's just not stressed. And so I did experience that, and it was horrific and horrible, but God has done so much through what happened. The fact that Nick and I are still married and made it through it is an
Mm.
absolute miracle that I love to talk about. And yeah, now I've just made it a goal to spread awareness about the illness and how bizarre it can be and how difficult it can be to diagnose and get treatment for.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, when you say didn't even know what this was until 3 years ago, what is your story? How did you figure out that this was going to become part of your testimony?
Yes. So it is kind of a long story, and I know we're limited for time, but I will do my best to cover the details that I
Yeah.
feel like are important. So I gave birth to my twin boys on May 22nd around midnight, and it was a amazing birth. They were a natural delivery.
Wow.
Jack came out after one push,
Oh my
which
word.
I mean, it was just, I couldn't have asked for better. There were medical students in the room who had never seen um, a vaginal delivery of twins before, and they were fascinated by it all. And it just almost felt like out of a movie.
Mm.
And shortly after birth, looking back, I think I saw some signs then. I almost kind of felt, really elated and almost like Superwoman. And I had people telling me that I was Superwoman. And I was like,
Mm.
gosh, I really am handling this whole twin thing and having 4 children, 4 and under, really well. And I remember climbing into the car, like into the back seat with my twins from the hospital, and Nick being like, oh my gosh, like you are doing so great. And I was like, I feel great. And um, but things really took a turn probably a couple weeks postpartum. I started having some paranoia, and I would be out in my living room nursing my twins, and I would see things around the house.
Mm.
Like there was this blue light one night shining through the window, and it was a really tiny light. And I believed in that moment that I was being watched.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought to myself, that's crazy. Like, why would I even have that thought?
Mm.
And so I really shrugged that off. And then a few more weeks went by, maybe even a couple of months, and I had this experience at a gas station right next to our neighborhood. And of course, I had all 4 kids in the car, and the card machine wasn't working, and so I had to go inside. So I left the van on, but I locked it, and I went inside to pay. And the paranoia really started to heighten in that moment too, because
Mm.
I felt like people were watching my van and they were going to take my kids.
Oh gosh.
And that's not a terribly out of the ballpark thing to worry about for
Right, right.
moms. That certainly happens in this day and age,
Mhm.
or has always happened. But I knew that I was a little more paranoid than I should be. Like, it was starting to affect my day-to-day life. And I came home and told my husband, Nick, about it. And he didn't say anything then, but now when we talk about my story, he's like, Mary Todd, it was a red flag then, the way that you talked about the man at the gas station looking
Oh,
at your
wow.
van. He was like, I knew something was up.
Mm.
And so anyways, we kept on with our lives. I was getting out of the house every day. I would wrap my twin boys up in like a wrap that you tie around you. I
Mhm.
would put both of them in there, and I had my two toddlers in tow. And so I didn't like isolate and keep to myself or any of those things that you would think that I might have done to have had an illness like this.
Mm.
Um, so with having the bipolar and having prior episodes, I thought that maybe a manic episode was coming on. And so I was sitting in the church pew one Sunday, and I looked at my husband and I said, Babe, I think I'm sick again.
Oh,
And
wow.
he said, I know, I can tell. He was like, we're going to be okay. We're going to ride it out like we always do. And and what we didn't know is it was something was on the horizon that was so much bigger, and it was just an absolute monster of an illness that was around the corner for us, and we just had no idea what was about to hit us.
Mm.
And so anyways, since we kind of at that time felt like, oh, this is just another manic episode, we have them. I usually have them about once a year, sometimes once every few years. So they're kind of rare for me, but we weren't surprised that maybe one was coming on postpartum.
Mm.
And I told Nick that my wishes were that we called on our church before we rushed and put me into the psych ward, because that just felt
Oh,
like
wow.
I wanted that to be a last resort. It is not a pleasant experience by any means to go there.
Mm.
And so we did that. We called on our small group leaders, I believe, first, and asked them if we could come over. And they were like, well, why don't we come over to y'all? Our kids were all at Awana's. They were being taken care of by some of my friends so that Nick and I could try to get a handle on what was happening. And so they come over, and my pastor ends up coming over too, which meant a whole lot to me. And I believe his wife came with him. Some of it's a little bit blurry, but I just asked if they would pray for us. And at that time, no one knew about my bipolar. And I said, I have this diagnosis, and I think that's what's going on.
Mm.
And I said, would y'all just lay hands on me and pray for whatever, we're about to have to ride out?
Yeah.
And they did. And within the next 48 hours, things got much worse, much quicker. So I went from being, very lucid, coherent, to being very delusional, and believing that it was the people around me that were the crazy ones, and they were the sick ones.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what is so bizarre about this illness, is it can make you believe that you're not sick. And if you don't catch it early enough, you don't get the treatment that you need.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to gather all my details here, but anyways, I started to believe that Nick was harming our children, which is an absolute off-the-wall, crazy thought to believe. He is nothing but a loving, wonderful father.
Mm.
But I believe that there were cameras in our house, and
Oh, my goodness.
that I can't even go into the details. They're so horrible. I just don't think I can speak them out loud. But
Yeah.
believe some really horrible things about my husband, and I believe that it was my goal to protect my kids. And so I kind of believe I'm on this like mission to
Mm.
save them. And I want to stop right here and say a lot of people think that postpartum psychosis is only when you want to hurt yourself or hurt your children, because those are the stories that we see in the news, like
Right, right.
Lindsay Clancy, Andrea Yates. She drowned all five of her children, and those are kind of what we associate with postpartum psychosis. But I actually wanted the opposite. I believed that my children were going to be harmed by someone else.
Mm.
And so Nick was trying to get me help, but the more he tried to do that, the more I believed that he was just trying to cover up whatever he was doing.
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
that he just wanted to put me away and so that I wouldn't tell anybody what was happening. And
Mary Todd, that's so
so
scary, like, to think that your body can have or your mind can take over like that whenever you know that that's not happening, but I can't imagine being in that state by yourself, you know?
it's crazy. It felt like I was on a mission from God. A lot of times, postpartum psychosis women have a very spiritual experience, and I can definitely relate to that. And so, yeah, it is terrifying looking back to think that I was at war in my mind and didn't know it.
Mm.
Um, and so, as Nick tried to continue to get me treatment, um, I was very resistant, and so since we didn't know what this illness was, and I was just showing so much anger and rage towards Nick, like they thought my small group leaders thought maybe the solution was to separate Nick and I, and me go stay in a hotel with the twins, and Nick stay at home with our older two. And looking back, I mean, that's just absolutely ludicrous given the state that I was in. But
Right.
again, there's not enough known about this sickness to know what to do. And
Yeah.
so as I'm at home trying to pack my bags, my delusions get so extreme that I start throwing food at Nick and in front of our children,
Mm.
and I'm like, tell me. Tell me that you are doing what I think you're doing, and I don't want to say that thing, but you know, he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and the more he would deny it, the worse I became. And so, anyways, our small group leaders were at the house kind of helping us mediate, helping me pack my bags. And they ended up calling the police because they didn't know what else to do. I mean, things
Mm.
were just getting so much worse so quickly. And Anne, when the police got here, I did not believe they were real police.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was very disrespectful. I mean, just so out of character for me
Yeah. I mean,
to
knowing
treat
you,
people that way.
you're completely the opposite of what you're saying right now.
Yes, yes. I mean, I was like inspecting their badges and saying, "Oh, you think you're Officer so and so? Like you are." I don't believe that for a minute. And like
Mhm.
their cop car even looked fake. Like everything looked fake. And what's so wild about this is I've actually seen a video of a postpartum psychosis like simulation on I believe it's Rethink Mental Illness. It's like a European mental illness page on Instagram, and they talk about how this is common to think that the police are fake when you have this illness, which is just
Wow.
crazy to me that it wouldn't just be unique to me
Right, right.
to have experienced this. And so they end up arresting me, and they did that because um, it was considered domestic violence, the fact that I threw food at Nick, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think in their world it's very black and white. And I
Mm.
do think they also knew if they could arrest me and put me in jail, once I got bailed out, they could get me to a behavioral health unit from the
Gotcha.
jail. Like that would be the ultimatum that they could give me. And so I do believe they did it to protect me,
Gotcha.
but it was a very traumatic part of the story because since I believe they were fake and they started to take me away, I thought in my delusional head that this was all part of the plan to have me taken away from my kids,
Mm.
and
Oh,
they would never see me
this could
again.
bring tears to my eyes, Mary Todd. Just knowing you and your character,
Yeah.
you love the Lord. This is not you, and to picture you, getting arrested and doing these things. I just wish I could give you a hug. And I know this has now been a few years ago, but just man, the how fast this all happened and you not I mean, like, I can't imagine how lonely and then as a mama, knowing my mama heart, thinking if I were to think that something like this was going on in my family, in my house, around my friends, yeah, what lengths I would go to protect my kids. And so but then you're being taken away from your kids who you feel like you need to protect, so Oh, I mean, it's like a movie, which sounds, I'm not trying to be ugly by saying that, but, like, this is stuff they make movies about.
And I'm glad you're mentioning that because I do want to warn listeners. I'm not certain that this contributed to my illness, but it's a possibility. While I was not on maternity leave, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but while I was spending time with my newborn twins at home and nursing and all of that, I did watch a lot of true crime. And
Okay.
I just want to warn listeners to maybe not do that postpartum when you're really vulnerable mentally.
Mhm.
Um, it I feel like some of the things I watched came true in real life
Wow.
in my
Wow.
head.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it when I tell this story, to a few of my close friends and a little bit that I've shared on social media, people have said it sounds like a movie.
Mhm.
Um, so I get to the jail and just have to stay 24 hours there, but I didn't believe it was a real jail. I actually, and I hope this is okay to say to your audience, but I believe that it was a sex trafficking ring that existed here in town, and
Wow.
that I was now going to have to be there for
For that.
ever, and I was never
Mm.
going to see my kids again. And I've always, since college, been very involved in the know with sex trafficking news
Mhm.
and, praying for survivors and things like that. And so I'm pretty knowledgeable about it. And so I just believed that that was what had happened to me. And the jail experience, Anne, was really horrific. To think that people that are mentally ill have to go there absolutely shatters my heart
Mm.
because the conditions are just disgusting. And, I was a nursing mother who was probably producing, I don't know how much milk per day, but I was, having to express milk into a pan.
Oh my gosh.
And, there were jail officers that were laughing and making fun of me for that out in the hallway. And just to think that women have to go through that. And I was only there for 24 hours.
Mm.
But, as sad as this part of this story is, I just believe that God wanted me to experience like the lowest of the lows so that
Mm.
I could relate to more people.
Wow, Mary Todd.
Um, I really do. That's how I see it. And anyways, my sweet, precious mother and stepdad bailed me out. And when they got there, I was still totally out of my mind. I mean, I accused them of killing all of our children.
Mm.
And she had these two ladies with her. I'm still not sure to this day who they were. I think maybe social workers. And she kept showing them pictures of my kids, and it was just,
Mm.
making me worse, I think, because I was like, I know what you did, and I'm not going anywhere with you because I don't trust you. Like, nobody would show me that my children were okay, probably because they were asleep. It was probably the middle of the night or some odd hour. Um, but anyways, I ended up getting in the car with them, but my brain just kept going from, okay, they're here to help you. Let them help you. And then the other side of my brain would go, no, they're evil. You've
Mm.
got to get away from them. And so I ended up running away from them. And I ended up spending the night in Muscle Shoals, which is just across the river from where I live. I spent the night outside, and I refused to close my eyes, even though I hadn't slept in about a week,
Oh my
because I
goodness.
just knew something was going to happen to me if I closed my eyes. And anyways, the the hallucinations started at that point. The seeing shadow figures, and I started to hear auditory hallucinations, which was really terrifying. Like I heard my youngest son's last breath, which it still haunts me to this day. The sound of that, and so anyways, my mom worked so hard that whole night to get me help because I believed that she was evil and wouldn't let her get near me. So she called one of my friend's moms that lives here in Florence, and she came and she was like, Mary Todd, will you please go with me to Schultz Hospital? And I didn't trust her aunt either. I believed that she was all part of the plan too. Like, it was wild.
Mary Todd,
And
we're
yes,
going to close this show out real quick, but I did want to let the
okay,
listeners know that this show, we're coming up to the end of the show, but we're going to continue Mary Todd's story because obviously there's much more for her to share and much more information for us to know about pregnancy and postpartum psychosis. So please continue next week when you hear the rest of this story.